Good afternoon, folks. My name is Robert Capers, and I am the U.S. Attorney for this district, the Eastern District of New York, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. Today, the United States will be returning or repatriating to Mongolia the impressive fossils that you see here before you. We want to thank Mongolia and Immigration and Customs Enforcement for graciously agreeing to hold today's ceremony here in the Eastern District of New York. It's a testament not only to our combined efforts in the investigation represented today before you, but also to the relationship that this office has with law enforcement, our partners, both foreign and domestic, and the cultural property community at large. I'd like to begin by recognizing some of our honored guests. With me today are two Mongolian ambassadors to the United States. First is His Excellency, Ambassador Altangerel, who will be speaking to you next. Also here today is His Excellency, Ambassador Sukbol, and members of both of their staff who are here with them as well. We are also very fortunate to have with us Mongolian paleontologist Dr. Bolert Setsing, who is director for the Institute for the Study of Mongolian Dinosaurs. Dr. Bolert Setsing is here as a representative of the Mongolian Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sciences. She'll be available to answer some questions for you after we finish our presentation. I'm also pleased to have with you today Robert Perez. Robert Perez, who's sitting right here, he's Director of Custom and Border Protection's Field Operations for their New York office. He will be speaking to you after Ambassador Altangerel about the important role that U.S. Customs and Border Protection plays in the protection of cultural property. I'd also like to welcome back an old friend of ours, this office, Perez. Peter is now the Executive Associate Director of Homeland Security Investigations at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Director Edge will be speaking to you after Mr. Perez does. Today I'll be focusing my remarks on the Alioramus skull that was forfeited by this office as a result of our work with CBP and HSI. It's amazing, isn't it? In 2014, this skull was being offered on eBay for $300,000 by a French company named GeoFossils. In January 2014, GeoFossils shipped it to this district for inspection by a prospective buyer. The fossil got as far as the port of Newark, where U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers, in their diligent efforts, intercepted it. HSI seized it subsequently, and my office then initiated a civil forfeiture action against this property, against this fossil. Now, why is that? It's simple. Because this is a very, very rare fossil, the most complete specimen of an Alioramus skull ever discovered to date. And it didn't belong to GeoFossils, it belonged to the people of Mongolia. Now, GeoFossils argued that Mongolia had authorized the Alioramus to be exported. However, it became quite clear that this was untrue. So much so that we were able to prove that the export of this fossil by the Mongolian government or anybody from Mongolia would make this a crime. And to prove its claim, or to try to support its claim, GeoFossils presented export documents and a certificate of origin from Mongolia dating back to 2006. Unfortunately for GeoFossils, Mongolia had its own official copy of these same files. And when these two documents were compared, it became clear that GeoFossils' form was a forgery. And so at that point, our office came in and we initiated forfeiture proceedings against it. Now, today's ceremony is a culmination of this successful investigation, this successful forfeiture case, and the hard work of many people. And I'd like to recognize and thank some of them for their contributions to today's events. First, I'd like to begin by thanking the Mongolian people and their government, which readily assisted us in every turn. We'd like to thank Dr. Bolert Setsing for her expertise and her authentication skills and her assistance with today's events. We'd also like to thank the American Museum of Natural History. I believe that Dr. Michael Novacek is here. Okay, Dr. Michael Novacek was supposed to be here with us today. He's the Senior Vice President of the museum, and also Professor Mark Norrell, who's the Chair and the Curator of the museum's Paleontology Division, who could not be here today as well, but both men were a great resource for this office. The museum also supported today's educational program that we'll be holding later for Mongolian children and children from the area. Next, I'd like to recognize and thank our law enforcement partners for their efforts today. We want to thank them for their steadfastness in the fight against trafficking in stolen cultural property. And so to that end, we want to thank Customs and Border Protection, whose vigilant officers stand guard at our ports every day, trying to eradicate this threat. We want to thank HSI agents who seized the Allioramus and investigated its origins, and this office for its efforts to complete this task. Now, in particular, I'd like to recognize HSI Special Agent Daniel Brazier for his investigative work, his tireless efforts that helped to bring this case to fruition. And finally, I'd like to thank an Assistant U.S. Attorney from our office, Karen Orenstein, whose dedication, passion, and expertise in this area helped to move this case to a successful conclusion that we're celebrating today. And I'd be more than remiss if I didn't send a special thank you to our Civil Division as a whole for their efforts in this case and their efforts to make this presentation happen today, including Brendan King, Dion Gill, and Maritza Arroyo. Now later this afternoon, we're going to be hosting some school children who will gather in this room to see and learn about the many magnificent fossils that we have here today. And we're very happy to have Dr. Bola Setsig stay here with us and lead that discussion and educate these children. Because as you know, repatriation ceremonies like this build on the goodwill between our countries. And so does this children's program, which will have children from both Mongolia and from here. And now I'd like to introduce Ambassador Altangerel, who joins us today from the Mongolian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Ambassador Altangerel has held that position since 2013 and has previously held 2 other ambassador posts, first in Turkey and then in the United Kingdom, as well as many other diplomatic assignments and government positions. He's devoted decades of his life to the areas of international law and international relations. And so we're glad to have him today. Please, we're going to welcome him to the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Mr. Perez and Mr. Perez and Mr. Edge, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege for me to be at this ceremony. First of all, I wish to acknowledge the solid contribution of the officers and special agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security investigations who are attending the ceremony, as well as those who are unable to be here today due to their duties, and all other officers who made this day possible. I admire your hard work and commitment. I would like also to thank you, U.S. attorneys, judges, and all individuals who have worked on the case. 3 years ago, we celebrated our first repatriation ceremony of the skeleton of Tarbaza or Batar. The T. Batar case was a unique one in many aspects. Firstly, it related to the over 70 million year old paleontological heritage. Secondly, It's the first time event of this kind of collaboration in the history of diplomatic relations of our two nations. Lastly, it has vividly demonstrated the fundamental principle of rule of law, and most importantly, it has laid foundation of further strong and fruitful cooperation between our two governments in the fight against illegal trade of cultural heritages, including fossils. Thanks to this fruitful cooperation, 23 dinosaur fossils had been repatriated to Mongolia during the last 3 years. And now we are witnessing a repatriation of 7 fossils, including Aleramus skull. The Aleramus skull was seized in the state of New York, and the other 6 fossils had been seized in the state of Utah. Mongolia is known as a home to unique dinosaur fossils. Many of these fossils have dramatically changed some fundamental teachings in paleontology. I only would imagine that fossils possess invaluable background information in scientific records on dinosaurs. Unfortunately, when they are smuggled or illegally traded, important scientific facts and data are lost and destroyed. Therefore, the government of Mongolia is making steps towards prevention of future looting and the preservation Mongolian dinosaurs fossils for generations to come. The dinosaurs fossil that we are receiving today from the United States government will be sent back to Mongolia and will be put under Mongolian government protection. They will be exhibited alongside with previously repatriated Tipatar. It's a central museum of dinosaurs, general public. We hope that these exhibits will be enjoyed by Mongolians and foreigners. I take this opportunity once more on behalf of the government and people of Mongolia to express our profound gratitude for the hard work and dedication of American law enforcement agencies. The government of Mongolia deeply appreciates your efforts, professionalism, and service. Our collective efforts demonstrated that together we can effectively fight against smuggling at the bilateral as well as international level. I have no doubt that these efforts will further strengthen of our bilateral ties, opening new opportunities and giving new impetus to our future cooperation. I am confident that these repatriation cases will once again show the firm commitment of the government of the United States to fight against illegal trade cultural heritage nationally and internationally. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ambassador. It's my pleasure now to introduce Robert Perez, Director of Field Operations for U.S. Customs and Border Protection's New York office. Under Bob's purview, he's got some of the toughest beats in all of CBP. He covers JFK Airport and Newark Liberty Airport and the East Coast's largest seaport. So for his record of achievements and contributions to international border and trade security, he's been named the Person of the Year by the Maritime Security Council. He's received the keys to the city from the mayor of Cartagena, Colombia, and received the True American Hero Award from the Federal Drug Agents Foundation. Without further ado, please welcome Director Perez. Bob?
Thank you, folks. Good afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you all here today. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Capers. I'd also like to thank and welcome Ambassador Altangerel, Ambassador Suckmold, Associate Director, Executive Associate Director from Homeland Security Investigations, Perez. And I'd also like to acknowledge our local HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, Special Agent in Charge here, Mr. Angel Melendez and his team. It is an honor, again, to join you all here today for this ceremony. Customs and Border Protection is extremely proud to have contributed to this significant enforcement effort. We at Customs and Border Protection are the guardians of our nation's borders. We are literally America's front line. We protect our homeland from dangerous people and goods while striking a unique balance in enhancing our nation's economic competitiveness by enabling safe and secure travel and trade. As part of this complex mission, CBP enforces a multitude of trade laws, including bilateral agreements and import restrictions on foreign cultural property and archaeological materials. Collaboration is not only a strategic goal of CBP, but it is a critical and necessary way of doing business in law enforcement now here in the 21st century. By working closely with our partners here at the U.S. Attorney's Office, with HSI, and our foreign counterparts, CBP was able to do our part to ensure that these illegally trafficked antiquities were returned to their rightful owners. The repatriation of these fossils is significant to all of us. These are not souvenirs to be sold to the highest of bidders. They are irreplaceable, priceless pieces of a country's history, its identity, and its national heritage. Of particular note, again, as the U.S. Attorney identified, is the skull to my immediate left, which I've learned is approximately 70 million years old. It is one, I believe, of 3 like specimens that exist in the world, and again, as you just heard earlier, the most complete ever found of its type. So that gives us that much more significant satisfaction with respect to this effort today. I'm confident that I speak for all of us who were involved in seeing this day come to fruition, that our commitment toward these types of enforcement efforts remains and will remain unwavering. I'd like to congratulate once again all our partners and everyone involved in making today possible for a job well done. Exceptional work. Again, I'd also like to particularly acknowledge the ambassadors here today from Mongolia and wish you and the people of Mongolia all the very best in the care and study and the cherishing of these priceless artifacts. The importance and value, again, of the interagency and international cooperation cannot be overstated. We in CBP will nurture our existing collaboration, our existing partnerships, and continue to seek to forge new ones to better secure our borders, better enforce the laws of this great nation, and better protect our citizens. Thank you for having me, folks.
And last but certainly not least is Executive Associate Director Perez, who has had a distinguished more than 25-year career and has been a friend to this office for almost all of that time. He's risen to top positions at both JFK Airport, Manhattan, and as the Special Agent in charge of the Newark Field Division. And currently in his position, he has oversight over the agency's 6,000 special agents both here and abroad. Please welcome Perez.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. U.S. Attorney. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you today. I'd like to first recognize our counterparts from Mongolia, Ambassadors Altangerel and Suko. We certainly appreciate the partnership that we formed as a result of the acquisition of these items that are going to be repatriated to you shortly in an official signing ceremony. I'd also like to thank our colleague Robert Perez from Customs and Border Protection. Customs and Border Protection is the uniformed presence at our nation's borders. Homeland Security investigations within U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement are kind of like the detectives who conduct the investigations into more than 400 criminal statutes that affect our nation's borders. Throughout the country, I'm proud of our strong relationships that our agents and investigators have built with the Justice Department. To do so is significant to all of our success as a nation. The cultural properties investigations that are carried out by HSI resulted in the seizures that you see here today. Our offices in Casper, Wyoming, Salt Lake City, Utah, and here in New York City were instrumental in conducting these investigations. This remarkable collection of artifacts is only a sample of the cultural property recovered through the hard work and dedication of ICE HSI. And we are proud to be returning these to the people of Mongolia today. Our specially trained investigators are assigned to both domestic and international offices to work closely with governments, agencies, and experts to protect cultural property and heritage. These types of investigations are not done by one agency. It's a worldwide effort. And as the Department of Homeland Security is based here in the United States, it's important for us to nurture those partnerships that result in days like today. Those involved in the illicit trafficking of cultural property, art, and antiquities can face prison terms of up to 20 years, fines and possible restitution to purchasers of the items. And I'm proud to say that since 2007, Homeland Security Investigations has repatriated more than 7,500 items to more than 30 countries. These fossils are significant as they are their tangible representation of the earliest forms of life in prehistoric Mongolia. On behalf of everyone involved in these investigations, I can tell you that returning these pieces to the rightful owner is the ultimate goal and truly satisfying. These treasures belong to the people of Mongolia and should be viewed, studied, and enjoyed by all ages. And a testament to that is that there'll be an event for young children after this. These cases often require years of detailed investigative legwork, including extensive field interviews, forensic document analysis, and the cooperation and assistance of some of the world's leading archaeological experts. They help us to determine not only an item's authenticity, origin, and age, but also if a particular relic or artifact may have been brought to the country illegally. Now I'd like to ask Ambassador Altangerel to join me at the table for an official signing ceremony to transfer the custody of these documents and these artifacts back to Mongolia. And thank you all for your attendance today. We certainly appreciate the support and the investigations that have taken place that have resulted in these great seizures. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, come over here. Dr. Bolar? Going to have these folks assembled by me. Do you all have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I'm not sure if this, but Geofossils, you said, was the French company that was trying to sell fossils to the U.S., and they had documentation. Are they liable, or is it someone giving them that information? Who bears responsibility in the case
Well,
of this?
I don't think we deal in responsibility or liability so much as we deal in returning these antiquities to where they belong. And so what we were able to do with the help of was establish the authenticity and who the rightful owner was, and initiated a forfeiture proceeding against these fossils so they could be returned to their rightful owners.
So then they're not being prosecuted?
This was a civil matter that was brought by our office's civil division. Yes, sir.
Do you recall their response? How did they feel?
How did who feel?
The people who had forfeited these fossils that are 70 million years old?
I can't say how they felt, but I'm sure the people of Mongolia can speak for how well they feel about having what was rightfully theirs returned to them for their safekeeping and for the Mongolian people and other people, partake in the beauty of what these items are.
Did they say how they got it?
We just initiated the forfeiture actions, and what we did is we litigated the authenticity and the rightful ownership of these artifacts. Yes, sir.
When this comes into the airport, it was taken in Newark, you said. Can you talk about what actually happens at that point? How it's packaged, how you find a
Well,
fossil like this?
why don't we turn that over to Director Perez?
Typically, what we utilize in Customs and Border Protection is our advanced targeting systems to identify potential shipments that may be of interest, and working very closely, particularly in these cases, with our colleagues at Homeland Security Investigations. We had some notion and some information that alerted our officers, our frontline officers, to perform a more in-depth inspection of the actual goods as they were coming across the border. And that is very typical of what the men and women in both agencies, CBP and HSI, do every day.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So we also saw some seizures happen during New York Asia Week. So in artifacts and also fossils. Is there more enforcement going on now than ever, or is this becoming a bigger problem? And what is the biggest challenge in fighting this problem?
Well, I believe that the partners at CBP and HSI, and I'll let them speak to that, I'll step aside, but they remain vigilant. This is one of the many things, the millions of items that come through our ports every day that these dedicated folks are here trying to make some sense of. And so I think that there is a continued heightened vigilance and level of enforcement, and there are continued partnerships with our office and with CBP and HSI. But I'll let Director Perez speak to that, or Director Edge speak to that even more.
In response to your question, there are numerous long-term internationally based investigations that result in wonderful seizures like this. So the agents, the men and women in our Special Agent in Charge office here in New York and other offices around the country are frequently receiving information that results in these seizures. So we just don't do this on our own. We do it with other government organizations, other governments, as well as non-governmental organizations. So we get information from a wide variety of sources that result in these wonderful finds and seizures that we're able to repatriate back to their rightful countries.
Would you say it's becoming a bigger challenge, though, at this point?
I would say, based on the 7,500 items that we've returned since 2007, it's been a problem for a very, very long time. The biggest challenge is identifying those who are in possession of these items, and also where they are, and also working with our non-governmental organizations like the doctor over here who would be able to identify these items to their true veracity, to make sure that we're able to get them back to the rightful owners based on what they're worth and the value.
And can I ask one more question just about responsibility? I mean, if it's bought from a reputable gallery, for instance, and they say they have documentation to prove its provenance, I mean, who's responsible in that case ultimately? Is it the gallery, the buyer, or how do you...
You know, again, the ultimate goal in these types of investigations is the ultimate seizure and civil forfeiture of these items. So we really continue to ask those questions, but the most important thing is to seize these, work very closely with the United States Attorney's Office, and repatriate them back to their rightful owners.
So they don't face penalties financially?
Sometimes they do. Yes.
Trying again on that question though. So how does this get out of Mongolia? I know this isn't your purview, but maybe the ambassador could speak to this. If it was not legal for this to be removed from Mongolia, as I understand it, how did it get out of the country to begin with?
I would defer to the ambassador to possibly answer that question.
Dr. Bulgaa, could you answer that question?
Yes, it is, very difficult to say. It is by different way, they, transmitted from Mongolia. But mostly, of course, it is proved that all transported through the Mongolian border illegally, by different, ways, and that's why, we if it is, how is discovering, we don't know how many fossils already illegally taken and brought from the Mongolia, but only in the cooperation with other countries and like United States and its law enforcement agencies, we are discovering that these, fossils illegally transported and brought it from Mongolia. But otherwise, we don't know. But we know it is a different way, through air, by train, and also by cars, by land, in different ways, using in the, house.
Ambassador, why don't we have Dr.
So,
Bulgaa? Dr.
okay,
Bulgaa
maybe
can amplify.
we will ask our expert, to answer more clear.
Well, each cases are different, of course. In terms of these dinosaurs, how they getting out of Mongolia, there are cases being, it's not like every dinosaur's been illegally trying to take out of Mongolia, left the country. What I mean that is customs people in Mongolia working hard as well, try to stop this illegal activities. And there's a case, for example, one quite large-sized dinosaur was almost left the country by air cargo. So customs people were able to stop that. And so also there is a cases that, especially Mongolia is facing these, years that mining industry is quite developing quite actively. So we do have the borders in the south between Mongolia and China. We do have every day big trucks of coal, crossing back and forth between two countries. So there are cases that some dinosaurs being possibly taken out through those big, large trucks loaded with coal. So each cases are different. And of course, when you look at the dinosaur up there, Bactrosaurus, it's quite large dinosaur. So how come you can not noticing this size of dinosaur crossing border, right? So, and like the case with Elaramas, so in terms of customs forms being forged, put it something else, and then actually inside the actual package has dinosaur. So there's many different cases of way it's coming out. But so in terms of real fact, I can't really tell you exactly how the process works. So the customs people in Mongolia probably would have more questions. Of course, they can't answer here, but in terms of my knowledge, I can give you this information. So, thank you.
Last question, please.
Where are the fossils going to be on display when they return to Mongolia?
These 8 fossils are going to be displayed museum called Central Museum of Mongolian Dinosaurs. This museum was actually established back in 2013 when we had our first dinosaur first dinosaur that repatriated back to Mongolia was Tyrannosaurus batar. Probably some of you know about that dinosaur. So when dinosaur returned back, Mongolian government actually established a new museum to display and cared and stored these dinosaurs in that museum. So these fossils will be joined with previous dinosaurs that have been repatriated back to Mongolia.
Okay, folks, thank you very much for your time. We'll adjourn for the moment. We have a 4:30 program that will be starting where we will be having the fossils on display for children from the community.